If you think I look a bit ghastly, then it's very rude of you. But it's, I have been unwell for quite some time, and still am. But I want to talk about something that is encouraging to all of us. Hopefully, today we'll go to Ecclesiastes, chapter 7 to start. We're just going to read verse 8 in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. It says, "Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit." As we have been mentioning over recent times, there's a lot of things happening in people's lives. There's some sicknesses, there's financial problems, there's family turmoil. But in reality, we always have these things happening. Sometimes not, when I mean always, we don't constantly have problems. But I mean that for the most part, someone in the assembly has something that is troubling them. We have times of peace, of course. We have times where things are going well, and we are grateful and we thank the Lord for it. But we do know that there are quite often times where there's something on our mind. It might be something big, something that has a daily impact on us, or it might just be a low-level concern that pops into our mind every now and then. You know, that there's something going on out there, and we think, I wish it was different. I wish it was better. And I want to talk about that today. You know, it says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. You know, when trouble comes upon us, we want it resolved quickly. We go, this is terrible, I don't like it, can it be finished now, please? And at the end of it all, you feel better, because you go, it's finished. The stress, the anxiety, the pain, the tiredness, the guilt, the anger, the uncertainty, whatever it is that we were feeling through that whole time is gone. You know, there is, you know, we now have clarity, we have release, we have purpose, we have growth, we have strengthening, we have relief, or whatever it is that you feel when whatever it was that we were going through is now finished. And we want that. We don't want the problem. We don't want the tribulation. We don't want the difficulty. We don't want whatever it is that keeps us awake at night, or, you know, that's what I'm dealing with, or, you know, that saps our strength during the day. But it tells us that we know that it's, at the end of it all, it's better, because you know that it's fixed. When it all starts, you think, I don't want this. I don't want this to be happening to me. I don't want this to be happening to my loved ones, or to my friends, or to other people who are innocent in the situation, or they feel it's unfair or it's undeserving. But it goes on to tell us that the patient in spirit is better. So that when we're going through these things, a patient spirit, a strength in you that is sustained by patience, is better. Because it's believing, it's hoping, it's trusting, it's seeking, it's enduring through that time where you go, this is hard, but I know it's going to end. I know there is going to be an end point, and I can rejoice in what has now been resolved and what I've learned through that time. You know, the proud spirit says, I'll sort it out now, I've got the answer, I don't need God, I don't need other people, you know, I'll fix it straight away. And that usually ends up probably making things worse, or masking what the real trouble is. You know, you go, yeah, there, I did it, I fixed it, but there's an underlying issue that, you know, causes trouble later on. So, we want to look at an opportunity to face these times and go, all right, Lord, support me, sustain me, give me the patient spirit that is trusting you every day when I'm facing whatever it is that has come upon me. We'll go to Psalms 37. There's 2 verses here. We know these 2 verses. We read them, we sing about them. I just want to bring this up now and remind us of that at the end. Psalm 37, verse 23. It says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand." So it tells us that when we walk in God's ways, and when it says man here, we mean the general sense of people, humanity. It's not exclusive to guys. But it says that when we are walking in his ways, he establishes our path. He directs our path. He goes, all right, I want you to go this way. So there's a condition that we are walking well with the Lord. We're doing the right things. We're praying, we're reading our scriptures, we're serving one another, we're having good fellowship, we're trying to spread the word, we're looking outwardly. And God says, that's good. I'm going to help you on your path. It says, he delighteth in his way. It's actually talking about God being the first he, delighting in his, us being the second his, or you, way. So it says that God is saying, I'm going to guide your steps, because you're a good person, and you're doing the things that I like. And I delight in what I'm seeing. I delight in the progress that you're making and where you're going. It says, though he fall, not if he fall. It might be the same word, but it's sort of a when it happens. Even though you fall, even though things trip you up, even if there's a misstep, even though there's something that has caused you to trip, it says you shall not be utterly cast down. So it says things are going to happen. We know this. We know that stuff becomes troublesome in our life. But we're not utterly cast down. We're not destroyed by it. We're not broken on the wayside. It says, for the Lord upholdeth him in his hand. Now you imagine this, it's easy if you've got kids or nephews or nieces or whatever. You're walking and you're holding their hand, and there's a particular age where, they're sort of at the extent of their reach, and you're holding them, and when they trip, they sort of take you down a bit because you're supporting most of their weight at that point. And they stumble, they sort of hit the ground a bit, but you are still holding them and you lift them up again. And if you're a guy, you sort of launch them back up into the air. But it's that same feeling that the Lord is holding our hands and we trip. We still hit the floor, but He's still got us. And He says, you're not sprawled in the dirt with skinny knees and broken teeth or whatever it is. But you get hurt by it, but I've still got you. And He pulls us back up. That's the imagery that I want to leave with you. Alright, we're going to go to Joshua chapter 10. I'm just going to go through some very well-known accounts in the Bible. So we're not going to read all of them. I'm just going to remind us of what's happening and just draw out some points. The title of my talk is Already Won. And I want to talk about examples where people have encountered a situation and God has already won the victory, but they just hadn't seen it yet, or they hadn't encountered it yet, or they hadn't experienced it yet. But God has said to them, or He's made it known to some people to go, I've already done it. You just have to find it. So here, this one's pretty easy. So Joshua 10, chapter 6. Actually, I'm going to abbreviate some of this stuff. So there's a situation where the men of Gibeon are attacked, and they send word to Joshua saying, can you come and help save us, for the kings of the Amorites have come to attack us. And Joshua gathers his people of war, and the mighty men of Ballarat. And in verse 8 it says, And the Lord said unto Joshua, Fear them not, for I have delivered them into thine hand. There shall not a man of them stand before thee. So that's pretty straightforward. God says, don't worry about it. I've already won the battle. I've already delivered them into your hand. So for us, there's situations that turn up where we already know that God is going to deliver us. We go, I already know it. It's in my heart. I have prayer about it. I have confidence and faith and hope that this is already done. However, you still have to fight the battle. But you go into that fight with the confidence that you're going to win. And that's what we see here with Joshua, is that he makes some people very uncomfortable with swords. Says he discomforted, and the Lord discomfited them before Israel. And so Joshua goes with his men, and they go and fight. So they still go into a battle. They still go against their adversary, their enemy, and they have to put the work in. But Joshua is so full of confidence about this that he starts to ask for God's help with the impossible. Now, for starters, he sees God smiting the army with massive hailstones. So he's already going, I've got some confidence. I can see that God is backing me already. And they start to fight. And they go, I'm so confident that we can win this. Can we just finish it today? But for us to finish it today, we just need more time. So can you please just make today last a bit longer? And you can read in verse 12. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day where the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Arphanon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed. So Joshua, in his confidence, said to the Lord, you know what, I'm going to ask a miracle. Can you just make the sun and the moon stand still so that we've got enough daylight to kill everybody, please? And God honoured that. So here we have Joshua who had to go and still fight, but he had so much confidence that he had the audacity to demand a miracle from the Lord. And it's such a great example to us is that sometimes something will turn up and we're not even afraid because we already have the confidence to go, I already know that the Lord's going to do this. I already know that the Lord has got a miracle in store for me. And all I need to do is just get in there and fight the battle. We'll go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. We know this one very well, David versus Goliath. So I'm just going to grab a couple of verses in this. So 1 Samuel 17, verse 24. So we know that Israel is pitted against the Philistines in this valley, and the Philistines have decided to declare the rules of combat, and Goliath comes out and says, all right, 1v1, winner takes all. Who you got? And David turns up. His brother's a bit cheesed off. Sorry, that's a joke. He brought cheese and bread. Anyway. And you're a naughty boy. I know the naughtiness in your heart. You just wanted to come and see a battle, didn't you? And David says, well, what's going on? And in verse 24, and all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, not David, but Goliath, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, have ye seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spoke to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And just read in verse 32, because he goes to talk to King Saul. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him, and thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. What I want to bring out about this is that everybody else was terrified because, they looked at the situation and went, I can't beat him. He's, probably nearly twice my size, if a bit more. And, he's got really heavy weapons and all that sort of stuff. I can't fight him. David comes into this situation and goes, What's going on? And they say, when someone beats this guy, then they'll surrender. And David says, cool, so we've already won then. Because as far as I see it, it's a straight up victory. Because this guy has defied the armies of the living God. So God is already on our side. So David comes into the situation and he goes, you only need one guy to beat him. Well, that's easy. I'll do it. Because we are the army of the living God. We have the power of God behind us. I am so confident that this is a non-issue that I'll just go and do it. Because it's not about me. It's not about you. You don't have to fight him. God has to fight him. And that's where we have our trust. Now, sometimes we're David, sometimes we're everybody else. Where there's something in front of us and we just go, well, I can't fight that. I can't fix that. And that's why we get the terminology, the Goliath in front of you, the giant obstacle that's, in your path. And sometimes you need someone like David to turn up and go, look at this scripture, look at this promise. Let's have prayer together because you're not the one fighting this. God is on your side. This person is defying the power of God. What do you think he's going to bring against God? And sometimes we need someone to come and tell us that the victory is already won. And sometimes they go, I'll fight it for you by having a prayer and fast for you. You're struggling with the situation. You know what? Just relax. I've got it. I'm going to put myself in your place and say, Lord, I want you to heal this person. I want you to bless this person. I want you to deliver or provide for this person because they don't have the strength right now. They're looking at this problem and they're like, I can't win this. But you can come alongside them and say, yeah, but you don't have to fight it. God can do it and I'll help you. And that's, what we see as the example of David. We'll go to 2 Kings, chapter 7. We've heard about this one pretty recently. It's the siege of Samaria. I don't know where it's at. Sorry, that's another joke. The city of Samaria with Elisha in it. The people were stuck. They'd run out of resources. Things were getting very desperate. And they were hiding from an army that was waiting to capture them. Well, we'll just read from verse 3 of 2 Kings chapter 7. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall not die. And they arose in the twilight to go into the camp of the Syrians, and when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host, and they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also and went on and hid it. Then they said one to another, We do not well. This day is the day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore come, that we may go into the king's household. So we know this story, and it says that, it tells us that these 4 lepers were desperate. They weren't allowed in the city because of their condition. So they were just sort of hanging outside the gates, and they took the best of a bunch of bad options. They went, well, we're going to die anyway. Maybe if we go and throw ourselves on the mercy of the enemy, they might feed us, or let us kill us, That's the only path that's going to give us some sort of victory. But what they go and discover is that God had freed the people and provided in abundance, but they didn't know it yet. The people didn't know that they had been delivered. And there's some great analogies that have been brought out from the story, and it's a fantastic one. But for in this example, sometimes we feel trapped in a situation that we're running low on everything, and we go, this is never going to end. I don't see any way out. It's impossible. The enemy's just out there. I'm running low on everything, and I don't see how it's going to change at all. The victory was already won. The people just had to go and discover it. And in a day, God changed their lives, as Elisha prophesied. He said, our market's going to be back to normal. You'll have all the food that you can buy, and everything will be changed around. And sometimes that's where we're at. We're running out of money, we're running out of food, we're running out of patience, we're running out of strength, we're running out of whatever it is that builds up this feeling of being completely trapped by whatever it is that we're facing. Yet, God can turn it around completely. He can fully restore you in a moment. But all we need to do is discover it. All we need to do is find out. And sometimes the hardest part is walking out those gates to face that problem. And all of a sudden, that's when you realise that God has changed it. For some people, that's, it's a court case for some sort of family situation. I've heard about those. We had, I remember there was a brother in Adelaide that we were good friends with him. He had done some stuff before he got saved. I think he did some shoplifting or something like that. And, he got spirit-filled and saved, and, they caught up with him and said, oh, you need to go to court about this sort of thing. And he was like, oh, okay. He prayed about it, and I think he ended up representing himself because the lawyer was, telling him to lie. So I can't remember this, but he had this situation that he had to face. But it was when he turned up and he spoke his testimony that he discovered that God had won the victory. And they said, yeah, okay, don't worry about it. I can't remember the outcome, but it was great. But it was that moment of stepping and facing that trial, that problem, that enemy that you think is waiting for you, and discovering that God has already changed it around. John chapter 4. I really like this story. I've mentioned it before, I've used it in a talk and in a prayer and fast. John chapter 4, verse 46. So Jesus came again into Cana of Galilee, where he made the water wine, and there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then said Jesus unto him, Except you see signs and wonders, you will not believe. The nobleman saith unto him, Sir, come down ere my child die. Jesus saith unto him, Go thy way, thy son liveth. The man believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way. Jesus sets the man a challenge. He makes a statement. He says, Except you see signs and wonders, you won't believe. He actually was giving this man a challenge because the man says, I need you to come with me. Come down and heal my child because he's going to die. And what Jesus was saying, in my opinion, one way of looking at it, can you believe in a miracle without seeing it happen in front of your eyes? Because at that point in time, everyone knew that Jesus was a prophet. Jesus was someone sent by God. They didn't understand the full extent of that, but what they knew without a doubt is that he performed miracles. And when Jesus came to you and he healed you, you were restored. We have the story, we have the account of the people breaking open the roof to drop the man down to be healed by Jesus. The woman with the issue of blood pushing through the press to touch him. There was this focal point that was Jesus, is that if you get to him, if he comes to you, you will see a miracle. And what Jesus said to this man was, he says, if you believe that I can heal in person, do you believe it doesn't matter where I am, that you can still be healed? Do you believe it doesn't matter where the problem is, a miracle will still happen? Because if you believe that I have the power to heal when I'm directly in contact with a person, then can you believe that I don't even need to be there at all? And the man believed the word that Jesus spoke and went his way. And what I love about this is it goes on to say, and as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, Thy son liveth. Then inquired he of them the hour when he began to amend, or to get better, and they said unto him, Yesterday, at the 7th hour, the fever left him. So the father knew that it was at the same hour in the which Jesus said unto him, Thy son liveth, and himself believed, and his whole house. What is incredible about this, and what I love about this, and it's very easy to miss, is the fact that this man travelled for a day, or a period of time, at least overnight. He left Galilee, and he went home, and he had to trust and believe and hope that whole time that he hadn't made a massive mistake. That he trusted what Jesus said. That he went, I do believe. I know that when I get there, my son will be healed. He had to carry that with him for that journey. But what did he find out? That when he got home, the victory had already been won. Not only had it already been won, it was won the same moment that he believed. He just had to discover it. He had to take that time to carry that hope with him. Yet that whole time, the victory had already been won. His son had been healed that whole time that he made that journey. He just didn't know it yet. Sometimes we have that we're like, I'm on my way to something, and it's hard because I just don't know. I don't know. I want to believe. I'm trusting, but you have to carry that hope with you until you get to the point where you realise that the victory had already been won. Whether it was a week ago, whether it was a day ago, whether it was an hour ago, whatever the situation was, when it's unfolded before you and you realise that God was with you all along, there's great joy. And the man believed in his whole house because of the miracle that they saw. But sometimes you've got to make that journey not knowing, but trusting. I'll go to John chapter 11. I've got to put this one in here because it's great. Lazarus. John chapter 11, verse 1. Now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. We know what happens. We know how this unfolds. But right here at the beginning, Jesus knew that Lazarus would rise again. And he tried to convey that to his disciples, but they couldn't comprehend it. They didn't understand. And what Jesus then went on to encounter was the sorrow and pain and hurt that they still had to experience. But a victory was already won. He said from the beginning, he said that sickness is not unto death. Even though Lazarus would die, it was going to be temporary for him at this time. And Jesus delayed, and he tried to tell the disciples about it, but they didn't understand. They just thought, what he means is that he's sick, he's resting, and then when we get there, you're going to heal him. They couldn't understand that he was going to die, and then he was going to be risen again to show the power of God. So for Jesus, when we read later, it says Jesus wept. We understand that he didn't cry for the pain of the loss of Lazarus. He cried because of the pain he saw in the people and the fact that they had lost hope, that they couldn't extend their faith in undoing what they saw in front of them. But he knew that was what was going to happen. But for us, it's hard to go through that, not knowing the outcome, especially when it comes to death. Because we know that we're all going to die eventually. Obviously, Lazarus did. He died a second time. We know of people who have been healed from diseases. We know of people who have been raised up from the dead. Some of those people have now died. And it's hard not knowing if this is the time. It's hard not knowing if you're faced with death, if you go, but do I get a bit longer? Do I get an extension of this? But what Jesus shows us is that that's an opportunity. That overcoming death is something that we could experience. And we'll go to some more scriptures, but as I finish up, but what we see here is that Jesus showed them that it was possible to overcome death itself. That the power that God can bring into your life can extend even that finality that we face. But for us, it's very hard because we go, I don't know if that's going to be my time. I don't know if I'm going to have to lose what I have in this life and leave my family, leave my friends, or if I get another go. But what Jesus is saying, and what he encouraged the people to do, is to go, but you've got to hope. You've got to ask. You've got to try. You've got to see if there's an opportunity for a miracle to happen. And if not, we rejoice that we have overcome the sting of death, which we read elsewhere. We have overcome the power of death, which is that that's not it. That there is something after, and that is glory. That is a new life, that we will be risen to meet the Lord in the air, and he will say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You carried through, you fought through all those battles, and even when you were faced with death, you might have been given the opportunity to overcome it. You might even be given the opportunity to welcome it, to say, I've fought the good fight. I'm ready to go." A lot of the times we go, "I'm not ready. I want to do more stuff. I want to spend more time with my family." But all of us at some point will face that finality and go, "You know what? I'm ready, Lord. Bring me home." John chapter 12. And the reason why we know we can face that is because Jesus faced that himself. Which is what we're going to go on to remember today. John chapter 12, verse 23. And Jesus answered them, saying, "The hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit." Verse 27. "Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this cause came I unto this hour." Jesus tells his disciples, he says, unless a piece of corn, unless a seed, a grain goes into the ground to die, it's by itself. And he says, I'm by myself. I'm out here working my Father's work, doing my Father's job that he asked me to do. I'm here trying to bring salvation, trying to bring healing, trying to bring miracles, trying to reconcile mankind to their Creator. But I'm doing it alone. And if I die, I will bring forth much fruit. Because through my death is victory. And the springing up of that, the fruit of that, is us. Is the power of God to be shed abroad throughout all the earth. Think about all the miracles that you've heard of, over all of the camps, all of the testimonies, all of the meetings, all of the people that you've spoken to, and go, that's the fruit that Jesus was talking about. That as he died and sprung up out of the ground like a plant, which is the analogy that we see here and elsewhere, he brings the fruit of that labour, which is us. Power into our lives. Power to overcome our nature. Power to be guided by the Spirit. To have the Scriptures embedded in our heart, as we've heard about recently. To be able to walk as a good person and God to look upon that and be delighted. That's what he achieved. And he said, what am I supposed to say? Save me from this? What am I supposed to say to God? I don't want to do this, because he saw the victory that was coming. He saw what it would bring, and he knew that despite the pain and agony that he would have to go through to fulfill all Scripture, to become that perfect sacrifice, he knew that through that pain was victory and glory and honour, and that he would rise in power. I'll go to Hebrews chapter 12 to finish. Saw read this out on Friday night, but it's such a great scripture that I just wanted to finish here. When Jesus was faced that trial, with that death, he considered it, and he asked his Father, he said, if there's any other way, make this cup pass from me. I don't want to drink it, but I will. Because he could see the victory that he would destroy the power of Satan. There's another great scripture about this, which I love reading out, but I won't go to today. It says that he would destroy the power of Satan. He would take away his power of death through death. By dying, which is the power that Satan has over people, mortality, the finality of it, that there is no opportunity to change who you are at that point. Jesus said, I'll experience that and I'll destroy it. Because I will show you that I have power over finality, that I can undo it, that I can be risen again, I can revive people, I can bring them back physically, metaphorically, spiritually, back from the dead, to live again, to live a new life, to be empowered again, to go out and fight once more. And in his resurrection, he brought the first fruits of redemption, that we would be reconciled, we would be able to then walk hand in hand with God. Hebrews 12 verse 2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. He saw the joy. That was the victory that had already been won. He knew it from the moment that he was born, that he was going to die forever. He knew the outcome of that, but he saw the victory, and for the joy that that would bring, the first fruits of the resurrection, us, for what he saw that we could have in our life, he endured the cross. He went through that pain. He went through that suffering. He went through the shame, so that he could bring billions of people to walk hand in hand with God. So today we're going to remember that. We're going to honour that, and we are strengthened by it, that we face our trials. It says here, lest you be wearied and faint in your mind. We look at all these things. We can face our trials, we can face our fears, we can face our failings, and know that God still holds our hand, and he says, get up, I've still got you, and we've already won.